Today we're watching some of the scariest Teslacam videos we've featured so far. Buckle up for Wham Baam Teslacam's worst drivers of Europe in 2025. Hugo was driving on a section of the German Autobahn with no speed limit, going so fast he was practically flying. Suddenly, a car to his right moved into his lane in front of him. Realizing there was no way he could slow down in time, Hugo laid on the horn while squeezing between the other car and the guardrail. He told us that, in hindsight, he should have started slowing down earlier. He isn't sure if the Tesla helped him avoid a collision with the other car. That said, he did say he clearly felt the Tesla push him back toward his own lane and away from the guardrail once he had passed the other car. Our next video features what may be the worst professional driver we've ever seen on this channel. Get ready for some insane and completely unprovoked road rage from an Italian truck driver. It all started when Henry and his girlfriend were driving down an Italian highway on their way home to the Netherlands in their Model 3. Just before crossing the border into Switzerland, they approached heavy traffic caused by a construction zone up ahead. Check out the truck on the left. It's owned by a company named No Limit Transport, which is fitting considering the driver had no limits. After combing through the footage, we can confirm this was the first encounter Henry had with this trucker. As Henry passed the truck, the driver gave no indication whatsoever that he was planning to change lanes. Apparently he wanted to, though. As soon as Henry passed him, he merged behind Henry, still neglecting to use his turn signal, by the way. The lane Henry and the truck were now in was ending up ahead, so all traffic needed to merge left. Henry matched his speed with the traffic in the left lane so he could merge, but the trucker must have thought he was going too slow. The trucker drove onto the shoulder to overtake Henry, but he told us that with a little bit of Tesla power, he prevented that from happening. When the lane finally ended, traffic was using the zipper merge method. The trucker managed to merge before Henry did, but then he closed the gap, blocking Henry from merging. With Henry now behind the truck, the driver brake-checked him to a complete stop. Once the construction zone had ended, the road split into two lanes again. Henry told us he's learned that Italians can get upset easily, so he kept his distance from the trucker. Henry stayed behind him for several minutes, but he kept driving slower and slower. Eventually, Henry tried overtaking him, but the trucker was determined not to let him pass. Things kept escalating as the trucker's attempts to block Henry got more and more dangerous. Remember, this trucker has no limits. The truck driver finally took his exit, but not without telling Henry that he thinks Teslas are number one. Henry's girlfriend immediately shouted he needed to send his footage to Wham Baam Teslacam. They're both happy there was no damage done. Peter was returning from a vacation with his family when he spotted the flashing lights of a police car in his rearview mirror. He made some room for the police car to pass him. The driver of a black VW Passat saw this as an invitation to pass Peter and nearly collided with the police car. Peter told us he has no idea how the VW driver could have missed the police car behind them, considering its lights and siren were both active. The VW driver is probably fortunate that cop had somewhere else to be, or they could have been in big trouble for failing to yield. Soos was driving down a highway in the Netherlands when traffic started to slow down for a collision up ahead. Many drivers, including Soos, activated their hazard lights to warn other drivers. Traffic had been moving slowly for about 30 seconds when a truck driver not paying attention plowed into traffic. The truck hit the Opel behind Soos, pushing it into the back of Soos's Model 3. After the collision happened, Soos immediately called 911 and emergency services responded less than 10 minutes later. Thankfully, other drivers helped clear the scene and direct traffic before emergency services arrived. Everyone walked away from the collision, and the van driver's insurance company accepted full responsibility. Seuss told us it was a stressful experience, but she's grateful she was driving a Tesla. Fixing the damage to her Tesla cost approximately 9,500 euros, about 10,000 US dollars at current exchange rates. The Tesla repair center was so busy, it took about 3 months to get the damage repaired. This emitter was driving behind a classic convertible in France. As they both approached an intersection, the convertible driver didn't slow down. Instead, he drifted around the corner? Yeah, we can't tell if he did that on purpose or if he lost control. Was this some sort of evasive maneuver, or was he not paying attention? Post your theory down below, and be sure to include your guess as to what kind of car this is. Is it a Mustang? Joelle was heading back after a day at the beach when a Fiat driver began tailgating and trying to overtake him. Eventually, the Fiat driver decided to overtake 3 vehicles at once, but he didn't realize that the 2 drivers ahead of Joelle were getting ready to turn. He tried to alert the Fiat driver by honking, and this worked, but he still wasn't able to completely avoid a collision. Joelle shared his Teslacam footage with the victim before telling the Fiat driver to stop driving so recklessly. Moonton was headed to an amusement park with his wife when traffic ahead of him began suddenly slowing down, so he put on his hazard lights to warn other drivers while he also slowed down. Sadly, the hazard lights weren't enough to warn one driver who was approaching way too fast. The other driver tried to avoid Moonton by swerving to the left, but they collided with a Ford Focus instead. The Ford spun and nearly ran into Moonton's Tesla, but he made an epic evasive maneuver and avoided a collision. Good save. Maybe he can teach Max a thing or two. Moonton told us they definitely weren't expecting such a thrill even before getting to the amusement park. They stopped to check on everyone involved, but they continued on their way to the real rides after confirming that nobody had been injured in the collision. This emitter was on his way to a graduation ceremony. Congratulations, by the way. Suddenly, the driver of the truck ahead of him changed lanes without noticing the car in their blind spot. The truck pit maneuvered the car, pushing it ahead of him before finally stopping. We'd love to hear your opinion about this situation. Was the truck driver at fault for not checking his blind spot? Or would you say the car driver was at fault for driving in the truck driver's blind spot, a notoriously dangerous place to be? Render your verdict in the comments below. This next video would actually work really well as a jump scare prank. Check it out. Hannes was driving his 2-week-old Model 3 Highland when a cyclist came out of nowhere looking the wrong way as he entered the road. Hannes slammed on the brakes and swerved. Thankfully, there was no traffic behind him or in the oncoming lane. Hannes successfully avoided colliding with the cyclist, making this a scary close call. Hannes told us the automatic emergency braking and collision avoidance worked perfectly. The cyclist rode off like nothing had happened, leaving Hannes in shock before he drove away. Jason was approaching an intersection when he noticed an Audi driver slowing down to let a Mercedes turn, but then he noticed a Hyundai creeping up as well. Jason had to swerve into the bike lane to avoid a collision, and he told us he felt the Tesla's active safety features helping him steer and apply the brakes. We've said this plenty of times before, but it bears repeating. Stopping to make room for other traffic when you have the right-of-way isn't courteous, it's dangerous. Rupesh was on his way to pick up his child from Taekwondo class when he found himself behind a white Mercedes following a white van. The van made a sudden U-turn after the traffic light, and the Mercedes driver couldn't avoid a collision. One might even say the van driver excelled in making that U-turn. Okay, maybe not. Rupesh immediately hit the button in his Tesla to save this footage. When police arrived, Rupesh gave both them and the Mercedes driver copies of his Teslacam footage, and they were both very grateful. Ash was driving in the UK when the driver of a white Honda Civic made an unsafe lane change, causing a collision with a red Model Y. Ash didn't understand the magnitude of the collision after it happened, so he kept going. It wasn't until he later reviewed the footage that he understood what had really happened. Ash found this picture posted on a Facebook group for Tesla owners in the UK. He hopes everyone involved was okay. Our next story is a perfect example of how not to overtake another vehicle. Fabian told us the impatient driver ahead of him had been trying to overtake a truck for several minutes, but when he spotted his chance, he somehow forgot to accelerate. Fabian tried to warn him with his horn and high beams, but the other driver didn't seem to care. To make things worse, the vehicle he almost hit was a school bus. This close call could have been a terrible tragedy. Ralph was driving on a main road when a van driver who should have yielded decided ain't nobody got time for that and crashed into the side of Ralph's Model Y. Ralph told us the Tesla swerved on its own before applying emergency braking. Once the repair estimate exceeded 50,000 euros, about $55,000, the insurance provider deemed the Tesla a total loss. This submitter was enjoying his Model 3 on a beautiful mountain road when all of a sudden, he lost traction and slid into the side of an oncoming taxi. He said this surprised him, and when it happened, it felt like something his old BMW would have done, but not his new Tesla. Amazingly, the rubber of the Tesla's tire was all that contacted the taxi, so the Tesla escaped without damage. Fixing the taxi, on the other hand, cost $250. By the way, this video came from the country of Georgia located in Eastern Europe, not the state of Georgia in the United States. This Model 3 driver was proceeding through a green light when, all of a sudden, a bicycle rider from the right ignored his red light and drove right through in front of him. Our submitter gave him a beep of the horn, but this minor repercussion for his unsafe and illegal action triggered the cyclist into full rage mode at the next traffic light. The cyclist jumped off his bicycle and practically leapt toward our submitter's Tesla before standing in front of it and throwing a temper tantrum. Our submitter told us he stayed calm and waited for the cyclist to take a breath so he could explain that he had to have run a red light. Well, the cyclist wouldn't stop shouting, so he never got the chance. Eventually, the poor child returned to his bike laying in the road. Considering his lack of concern for his own safety, I guess it's no surprise that he decided not to wear a helmet. H family was traveling back to the UK after a vacation in Hungary. Along the way, they stopped at a Tesla Supercharger in Germany for a quick charge while getting coffee. When a BMW driver didn't see the Supercharger behind him, he backed into it. Sisters Karina and Leona shouted, "Daddy, Daddy, hit the save button so we can send this to Wham Baam Teslacam." The BMW driver hit the Supercharger, H family hit the save button, and now you can hit the subscribe button. But only if you really want to, of course. Here comes another video from the H family. This time, they were in a hurry to get to a dentist appointment and they were already running late. Our submitter was maneuvering as quickly as he could on a long, tricky turn when he encountered another driver who he thinks might have also been late for something. Bam! Their side view mirrors made contact before debris went flying. Our submitter stopped, but the other driver continued down the mountain without even slowing down. Considering the fact that our submitter crossed a solid line during that turn, we're guessing he would be deemed responsible for the collision with the other car. Speaking of the other car, does anyone happen to know what it was? Leave your answer in the comments and claim your bragging rights. Tobias was driving his Model 3 on Highway A20, a stretch notorious for pileups, and today would be no exception. He was driving in the right lane and could see from a distance that cars in the left lane were stopping. Suddenly, he saw the driver of a black BMW apply heavy braking before bumping into a gray Mitsubishi. Right after that, he saw the driver of a blue Model X braking hard, and he swerved right to give other drivers space to evade. That's when he heard a loud bang next to him. The Tesla Model X had stopped in time, but the drivers of two VW vans behind it didn't react quickly enough and shoved the Model X into the black BMW. The commercial VW vans were owned by the same company, so Tobias thinks this will end up causing some interesting conversations around the office water cooler. Emergency responders reacted quickly and closed off the highway for an hour while they cleared all the wrecked vehicles. Incredibly, everyone was able to walk away from the collision without serious injuries. Tobias noted the Model X took the brunt of the impact and was the most damaged of the involved vehicles. Check out what Sentry mode captured after Noel left his Model Y parked in a London parking garage. When two guys casing the garage walked up to Noel's Tesla, Sentry mode flashed the headlights while displaying a message on the screen that the vehicle was recording. Both guys then decided to cover their faces, which isn't suspicious at all. After seeing that Noel's Tesla was empty, they moved onto the vehicle next to it, and evidently one of them quickly forgot he was being filmed. The others soon followed suit, but they'd both come to regret their actions later. They smashed the other vehicle's windows and pulled bags from the trunk. Ironically, this all happened right next to a sign literally warning people about this exact problem. One of the guys even entered the SUV to grab a third bag before opening the door and leaving. Noel sent his Sentry mode footage to the police, and if they decide to look into it, we're guessing they won't have much trouble finding these two luggage thieves. Our next submission is from Wham Bam himself. Max was enjoying a track day at Mantorp Park in Sweden, pushing his Model Y performance to its limits. Actually, it looks like he pushed it beyond its limits. Way to stay on brand, Wham Bam. Track mode data shows Max was going 75 miles per hour when he lost traction and spun 360 degrees before ending up facing the right way on the track. You totally did that on purpose, right, Max? Sadly, he could tell something was wrong. The vehicle was wobbling, so he pulled into pit to find out why. His front right wheel had gone into the gravel, adding a new wheel weight in the form of a ton of dirt. Gravel had also managed to get between the rim and the tire, and track officials ruled that his Model Y was no longer safe to continue driving. Since this happened on a Saturday, all the local tire shops were closed, but Mama didn't raise no quitter. Max located a shop that specializes in Tesla repairs and immediately called them. The shop owner answered in the middle of taking a shower, and when he learned that someone racing on the local track needed help, he rushed over to open his shop just for Max. And no, it wasn't because Max is Wham Bam. Actually, he hadn't even heard of Wham Baam Teslacam. He took the tire off the wheel and removed all the dirt and gravel before putting it back together, joking that he didn't realize the track had a rally section. Max thanked him before heading back to the track and getting his fastest lap times yet. Like I said, Mama didn't raise no quitter. This was actually a special track day for Teslas called Tesla Corsa, arranged by Unplugged Performance and Hamfi, a Swedish Tesla accessories store. Max had an absolute blast, and so did his rim, as you can see. But can you really put a price on fun? Yes, it turns out that you can. $600 in repairs plus the $300 to go to the track comes to a total of $900. That wasn't the only pro drifter that was sent to us this week. This submitter witnessed what he called a powerful car in the hands of a beginner. This BMW driver punched the accelerator on a corner and spun out just like Wham Bam did, only he ended up crashing into a tree. As usual, he didn't use his turn signal. Whoa, what was that? Our submitter was driving in Lisbon, Portugal, when he witnessed something crazy happening in the sky above him. Thankfully, we were able to look online and figure out what this was. The European Space Agency reported that on May 18th, a comet fragment burned up in the atmosphere above Spain and Portugal. That is what our submitter saw, and you know what they say, if you see a falling comet fragment, you'll be granted a wish. Our submitter wished that you'd make sure you're still subscribed to Wham Baam Teslacam. Seriously, he did. We're so close to 1 million subscribers, so make sure YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you by hitting the red subscribe button if you see it. Thanks so much.
Wham Bam Teslacam. Hope you're satisfied.